Okay, what in the world is going on? It's crazy, isn't it? I know everyone is feeling it. We are feeling this crazy stirring up within our bodies, within our surroundings, and our country, our planet, our nation, our city. You can look at strangers and see that they too are feeling the same thing that you are. These are crazy times, and this is why I've been very reflective, very introspective, and I've taken another sabbatical in order to ground myself, because what we're finding is that we can't even ground ourselves. We don't feel that protection anymore. You know, like it's cold outside and it's raining and it's snowing, and you go in and you make a fire if you have a fireplace, or you make yourself a cup of tea and you take your warm cozy blanket and you just put it on yourself and you feel safe. But now, with the energies that are happening now, we don't, and we can't, and there seems to be nothing that we can do so that we can feel that old feeling of safety anymore. We keep trying every single day to go back to that grounding place, to feel the roots beneath us, but nothing is bringing us that old time comfort or that old time relief. And so individually as well as collectively, there is this energy that is just moving. It's like a momentum, and we feel the destination within our beings. But if you don't know astrology, you can't put your finger on it, but you feel it. And if you do know astrology, then you can actually name it. And so we have had this hole in our tooth. And this hole in our tooth or our teeth, we all have been there if you've had it. And we wonder why that hole starts to agitate us for a while. You know, we do all of the aspirin and all of those things to cover it up, or we squish things in our mouth and we're like, okay, it'll go away. But we know darn well that there's no one that can fix a cavity but a dentist. My dentist has this sign in his office and it says, ignore your teeth and they will go away. And so unfortunately, that is a harsh reality that we all have to deal with, is that there are certain things that we can't just fix by ignoring them. We can't live in this world that says, okay, there are these underlying things and symptoms and issues that are happening, but I can just live in my fantasy world of illusion and pretend that it just doesn't exist. You see, the energy of the cosmos is speaking a language that is not allowing us to ignore anymore. We were able in the past to put a blanket on. We were able to comfort ourselves with food or a warm cup of tea or coffee when we felt afraid, when we felt insecure. And now we try all of those things every single day. We go through the old steps. And they're no longer working, because the cosmos says you cannot ignore that cavity, because that cavity is no longer this small little thing that you could just squish in your mouth some peroxide or take an aspirin with. Now you have a gaping hole and you have an infection that has gone down to the root. Well, collectively, we have an infection that has gone down to the roots. We have it individually as well. People have it in your families, in your relationships, things that you've ignored, situations and issues that you have decided not to address just to keep the peace, or just to feel like you have a blanket on or secure. Well, the planets are calling out, and they do not want this illusion and delusion and fantasy world anymore. They want you to face the facts. Because when you face the facts, you take care of the facts. And then the situations can evolve. There is a process that we have ignored. And so the cosmos is like, no, this process, this evolution has to take place. There will be some of you that will evolve and many of you that will not. And so now becomes the line of demarcation where we begin to separate the sheep from the goats. The sheep want to learn and they want to change, but the goats want to remain stubborn and remain in this fantastical world of illusion where they are not able to cover up their pain, but they simply use alcohol or drugs or relationships that don't work for you, and you pretend that it is. And so the planets are calling out for justice. Jupiter is in Libra, and Libra is the scales, and Libra says, I want solutions, I want justice. And so Jupiter is here to expand the relationship issues, the cavities that we have ignored when we're dealing with other people in our lives, when we're dealing with our home issues, when we're dealing with world issues, when we're dealing with race issues. It says it is time for you to address the issue, to look at the problems and find a solution. And if you don't, there will be revolution. And so the planet of law and order is also sitting in a home or a space where it says, I am going to bring about this justice as well. And so now we have two planets that are speaking the same thing, but one of them says, it is not only your home and your individual relationships that I am going to deal with and bring justice to, but now we are bringing structure and justice to people that do not look like you. People that do not speak the same language as you. People that you have possibly harmed in the past because they are different than you. You have decided to ignore that history and decide that it doesn't matter. And so because you've ignored it, the cavity has now led to an infection. And now we are calling your attention to an area of life that you did not want to look at, you did not want to see, and you wanted to ignore. You wanted to pretend that you were healed and that everything was okay. And you wanted to pretend that you do not have to answer for the times of which pain was inflicted, whether it was self-imposed, self-inflicted, or brought on by a larger and greater structure that you have designed within your culture, within your race, within your country, within your nation. Now is the time for all of these situations that you have covered over and pretended that did not exist. Now is the time for us to face it. And so you wonder why in your individual lives you might be having arguments with people. You might be fighting, and this energy that is so heavy, you are no longer able to pretend that you can just have a family dinner or have a party with your friends and be okay. We've just had a situation where people were divided based on how they felt about one man. And so you were perplexed like I was, because there were some people that thought it was okay for someone to speak demeaningly about other people. And so now you're looking at your friends and you're looking at your family, and now your mind begins to separate who thinks on what different issues, where everyone stands on different issues. And so because of that, you've had to decide who you can stand and stomach to be around, even if you love them, even if they are your family. And so now this line of demarcation becomes separated between the birds that flock together, the sheep and the goats. Which side are you on within your own family? Because we are being forced to take a side and a position. And those positions will create confrontation and arguments. And it is not just your home that is doing it. It is not just your nation and country that's doing it. It's the whole world that is going through this same energy of agitation in order to bring about a resolution that we have ignored and tried to medicate and cover over. And so some of you have thought within yourselves, okay, these conflicts and these arguments and this agitation and me, I just don't feel like I'm home. I don't feel like this is the place for me to live anymore. You know what? There's another country that I can go to where I can have healthy food. I can have the right government. I can have my rights. I can live better. You've done that. And you've chosen different destinations. And somehow in your mind, you feel that the grass is greener on the other side. But no. You see, the cosmos is making us realize that we live on a globe or flat earth, whatever you want to call it, but we live on earth. And on earth, there are limited places for you to go to. And you're even limited more because there are legalities that you must abide by now. And so there are just certain specific places that you can go to. And so your choices, you run out of choices. But the cosmos is letting you know that even if you go to a country or an island that you think is just utopia, that utopia has been affected by the place that you ran from. And so now it has also been contaminated by that of which you run from. And so there is no place to hide on this planet. There is no place to go because everything is the same wherever you go. They will be dealing with their own issues or the issues of justice of which they've covered up. Whether it be on a big scale or a small scale, it is everywhere. And there's nowhere for you to run. And so because we have run in the past, we have tried to cover up that cavity. We have tried to put a Band-Aid on a huge gaping wound. Because we have done that, it is everywhere. And there is no solution to run that you can run. And we are learning to be courageous and face the facts. You see, the sun now is in the sign of Leo. And Leo also has the warrior there, Mars. And so here it is, we're being forced to connect with that energy that roars and is not afraid. And so that energy that wars and is not afraid is sometimes not courageous. We've seen the Wizard of Oz and the lion who needed his courage. Well, some of you lack that courage. And so some of you will run or escape. You'll escape through drugs, through alcohol, through leaving and going somewhere else because you think it's better. But this is where you must face your demons. And if you do not face here, then those energies that call out for justice will chase you and they will follow you. They eventually catch up. So some astrologers will say, well, let me see where is a better country for you to live. Let me check on your horoscope and find out where you can move, where you'll have a better result. But in the end, those results or those trines become squares. Or they become oppositions. And so we are living in a time of squares and oppositions, which give opportunity for change. But they create the crises. And this is why we have the planet that just demolishes everything, just sitting in our structure. We have all of these retrograde planets. Mercury just went retrograde. We have Saturn retrograde. We have Neptune retrograde. And so we have all of this energy that's just going backwards because it wants us to go backwards and revisit the time when this issue or this problem was just this tiny little cavity. We have to go back there. And because we have all of this energy making us revisit the past individually and collectively, we cannot put our energy on looking ahead to the future to creating stability and security that you run to another country to seek after. You can't choose to say or plan ahead anymore. We have all seen recently that we have no control over things. We've lost our ability to have the illusion and continue to have the illusion that we can control even our own spaces, our own households, our own bodies, our own worlds. Because when you look at the whole scheme of things, you control nothing. You can't even grow food in your own backyard. You don't know how. You don't know how to sew your own clothes. You do not know how to make food, take the GMO and turn it into healthy food anymore. If you eat meat, you can't even decide to have healthy meat or take the hormones out or the antibiotics out. You are subject to the conditions that are now the result of the past. And so we are moving backwards. We are retrograding through the past. We are reliving the past because what is of the past affects the future. And so if in the past we had this little cavity that we ignored, right? Now that little cavity is something big in our future condition. And so this energy wants us to know that what we sow, we shall also reap. And if you sow in discord, or if you sow in which there is an infection and you think that somehow where it is infected is going to create a healthy bounty or harvest, then you and we and me and all of us are sadly mistaken. But we have all done that, and we have all been there. And so now we've had all of these eclipses. We had a lunar eclipse in Aquarius, and that was telling us that, okay, you know, you want to live through your heart and create the life that you want and the security and the blankets and all of that stuff, but you have forgotten about the little man that doesn't have food every day. You have forgotten about refugees that need a place to come where they're safe and their children are safe. You have said, no, what is mine, and you cannot have a part of it. And so this lunar eclipse is like eclipsing us into the greater picture that the world is bigger than just us individually. We don't just count by ourselves. And if there was somebody that just lived on an island by themselves, then how limited would they be? You know, we live on planet Earth, of which there are many different people. And if we deserve to eat and to live and to feel safe, then surely they do as well. And how dare we exclude them from this dream that shall not be an illusion if we all put our energy into it. As a collective family that shares this planet. This is our home. We all live on this home. And so it is just about you? No. Well, that lunar eclipse was telling us it's about everyone else as well. And what are you doing? What part are you playing to share that collective dream of which everyone has what it is that we all should be able to enjoy in this world? To feel safe, simply to feel safe, to eat. And so that is what it was telling us. And it is building up to the point of which in the purpose, our north node of Leo, the sun, where it shines, how is the collective of all of our brotherhood going to affect you as an individual so that it adds to your ability to shine, to grow, to be in your stage where you live love? How are you going to activate your heart chakra of love if you have not even looked at your brother? Or you have denied the needs of your brother for the sake of yourself. You see, a lion that only cares for himself and not his entire den. Are you a lion who cares for your entire realm? Or are you a lion who just cares for yourself? Are you the glutton king that sits and eats the delicacies of meats and all of those things when your realm of people are just dining on cake that has no nutrients, nothing that is going to support the health and vitality of their bodies, but yours is? You eat as your realm starves. And so we don't even have to look at that as though it's just our leaders that are now responsible for their behavior, but it is you too. And this is why everything that happens within the cosmos and the patterns that we are all seeing isn't only affecting the world when we turn on our TV, but your household is in disorder and disarray. So many people, relationships are falling apart. There's dysfunction that you have not addressed and looked at. And so because of all of those things, because of this deciding to ignore the fundamental core of our foundational structure and how it is that we interrelate with other people, how we serve ourselves and not others, or we serve ourselves and others, relationship issues, all of these things are now being rummaged up, brought from the sewer and the bowels of our collective humanity. And it is now being shown the light. And so whatever it is we have decided to hide, the eclipse and solar eclipse of the 21st of August in the sign of Leo at 28 and 53 degrees, I believe, it's forcing it to be seen. You've hidden your bowels. You've hidden the excrement because you thought that somehow by putting on nice clothing and making your house this pretty picture that everyone would believe the outside illusion. Neptune in Pisces, retrograde. We thought that we could create this facade of beauty of which there was no sewage that was being hidden. You clean the outside of the cup, but the inside is full of putrefaction, of dirt and rummage, and you hide it. And somehow all of us thought that we could shine and we could be Leo and we could be on the stage and it was all about us and what we got and no one else. And so living on this globe and this planet, it forces us to realize that we are not alone. You see, even if you lived alone on your own little island, you would still need things that will continue to maintain your sustenance and your covering. So you will need the other man to supply it to you. And so we would be forced, no matter what conditions we live, whether we are in solitude or whether we are in amongst the world, we are forced to see the commonality of man, and that is that we all have the same essential needs. And Saturn retrograde in Sagittarius tells us that. It tells us that somehow we think we can forget the past of which we've hurt our brother man. And now we can look ahead and see these immigrants and refugees, and we feel that we are going to employ justice to their needs. How can we apply justice to their needs when we have not even applied it to ourselves? And so we will use the same formula in how we treated our brother man within our own borders to how we treat people that come from outside nations into our borders. And so if that system of justice, Jupiter and Libra, was deficient then, and it was retrograde, then it will be deficient in how we administer to the new people that we welcome into our land. And how in the world will we make a better world when we can't even begin from the past with an efficient way to govern over the masses and ensure that every human right has the right of decency and fairness and sustenance and covering? How do we think we can implement laws that will now take care of those that we welcome into our realm as lions and kings? How can we do that when we are already deficient? And so the cosmos is telling us, I'm going to show you your deficiency. I'm going to show you all of your hidden excrement that will deter you or stop you from progress. And so whether you decided to ignore and anesthetize with painkillers what it is you've been trying to cover up and hide, you're no longer going to be able to. We will halt your momentum. And that's why there are 6 planets that are in retrograde, because the momentum for forward progress and what it is that we all desire collectively and individually, it's been on halt. Nothing is moving forward for any of us. We have no control over tomorrow anymore. And that is because the cosmos is making us stand still. It is making us stand still, and the only motion that we can make is not even sideways or forward, but backward. We're being forced to have an introspective look into the parts of us that contributed and were conducive to the conditions that we are now seeing on our television screens today. You can't ignore your part. And whether it was small or big, we all played our role and we all played our part. Whether we even decided to ignore it and to dress up our little houses and our bodies as though the facade is just so beautiful and perfect. Our white picket fences, everything's perfect. Materialism has created the circumstances where we can just Photoshop our lives, right? Photoshop is now showing the imperfections. We see the lies. We see what it is that we have all tried to create as an image, because Venus in Cancer, which will cause a T-square, is showing us that we're not as beautiful as we thought we were. We cannot have the comforts that we desire. We cannot have that maternal hug and security and peace because we are ugly. But we can improve and we can be more beautiful and we can shine our light and be on the stage like Leo calls for. But so long as we do not clean up our past, then that limelight, that stardom that we all and many crave will fall apart. And so August 21st, this solar eclipse is going to be in the position of the cosmos that deals with a royalty, monarchy, kingship, and how that king rules over the needs of their people, whether he is living for himself or he is living for others. And we are the king, and so is the king that we have elected. And the king that we have elected goes beyond the borders of just where we are. It affects the whole world, which is why there's nowhere to go but here. And try to face it and fix it and sit at a table together and all express where we're coming from and why. And come to a system of justice that satisfies the needs of all of us. And so we might create new groups. We might no longer have the friends and relationships that we've been so secure in the past. You see, we can fake it, but not anymore. You were able to fake it in the past, but you can't fake it anymore. Everything's falling apart. Our entire facade and fakery and Photoshop is falling apart. So the question is, how in the future are we going to live from our heart chakra in love of our fellow man and ourselves so that we can all shine in the light? The lunar eclipse in Aquarius made us look at them. And do you see the effects of what happened on the 7th of August with the lunar eclipse in Aquarius and how now we're seeing what's happening on the news and CNN? Aquarius asked us to look at our brother, to look at the person that doesn't look like us. And we ignored it. And then here it is days later. The excrement is before our face on television. The infection that we have allowed to spread almost to our brain is now smelling. And we all smell it and we all feel it and we all sense it. And so we will attach ourselves to the people who now think like us and feel like us. But at the same time, we are being asked to discard those who no longer serve us, who no longer allow us to shine in the brightness of a world that allows your fellow man to now have inclusion in this dream or in this realm of which we all consider a banquet table and enjoy the benefits of production and the harvest, a bountiful harvest that has its cultivation in love of your fellow man. That is the cultivation that we look forward to. And so this separation of the sheep from the goats, who you will now associate with, who you will not associate with. There's nothing wrong with picking your clan. But the clan must also realize that there are people outside of your clan that matter. This is a globe or a flat earth, whatever you want to call it. We all still share this soil. And so the energies that have come down to this soil. And how will we handle it? Will we be a better man tomorrow, a better woman tomorrow that is able to relate to other people that are not like you and love people that are not like you? We're being forced to visit that conversation. And so the eclipse on August 21st, don't fear it. It is in the sign of the king. It will eclipse America almost as if there's a division between America, up and down, one half to another half. Over 99 years, this has not happened. And so this is very, very powerful. I want you guys to know it is very powerful, but it is not the end of the world. So do not turn it into a religious theme of an Armageddon. The Armageddon is within us. It is within our bowels, figuratively speaking. And so that will come out in the way that we interact with each other. And whether it is war or whether it is sitting around a table, Jupiter and Libra, attempting to find the balance and the diplomacy that we will extend an olive branch to our brother or sister. And these are all the decisions that this energy is bringing forward. It is forcing the conversation, finally, after all the history of this country, it is forcing the conversation. And so now, if we apply the remedy and the medicine without the anesthesia and the cover-up of the pain, if we apply the medicine, now we can move forward into a time when Saturn goes forward on August 25th. And the sign of Sagittarius, we can move forward, and then eventually, hopefully, we create laws that will now be inclusive of the other man. And then when Saturn decides to make its way up into the sign of Capricorn, it'll now build the structure with a strong foundation, not built on sand like the past, but built on a strong foundation. We can now create laws and order, and a realm where the lion rules over his people with justice and love and purity of the heart chakra. And we can now create laws of which we all are important. Everyone matters. We say sorry for the past, and we create remedies to move on and heal in the future. And we create remedies and laws that extend beyond just our borders. But we include the refugee and say, come. We have the comforts of home. We have the motherly blanket, the warm tea, all of those things that you have been denied elsewhere. We have it to share with you. Welcome to our table. This is the new age of Aquarius. Thank you.